Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great Wednesday so far. So today we're going to be talking a bit about the invitation process. So a couple events that we wanted to let you know about. Two of our biggest events of the year. Wow, pardon me, frog in my throat this morning, it seems. We have the EMEA Summit in Dublin this year on April 29th and 30th. And then Elevate is going to be in Boston later in October. So save the dates and we hope to see you there. Additionally, we still have a ton of webinars this week. So here are some of the topics that we're going to be covering. So if there's any that interest you, you can still register online. Just go to our website and you can learn more. And now I'm going to pass it off to my lovely host, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel. I know I've spoken with some of you before. And today we're going to be going over the invitation feature that we have in our system. And this is just about, being able to invite different records to, different contacts to your application record. So these could be, people in the form of, co-applicants on a research grant, or maybe other reviewers, or even people that are refereeing your application.
Sorry to interrupt, Rachel. I just wanted to also say we love hearing your questions, but if it's all right, we were going to hold off on questions until the end of Rachel's demo. So if you can just hold them, and we are going to have a Q&A session there. But we love to hear from you guys. Sorry, Rachel.
No, that's perfect. Yes, so as I was saying, the invitation feature that we have in the system was really designed to help people solve the problem of collaboration. So it isn't always the case that you have one applicant who is going to do all of the work and submit the proposal on their own. The invitation feature was designed to allow those applicants to add other people, other team members, suggested reviewers, or even people who are doing letters of references, adding those contacts to their application record so that they have the ability to go in and make the necessary changes that are appropriate for that particular user. So one of the great things about this feature is that the way it works is that it assigns these additional contacts different role types. And for anyone who's familiar with the role permissions that we have in the system, this is going to allow you to control what those contacts see when they get added to the record. So it's not just a case where, if I invite Sarah to my application, that she's going to be able to do and see everything that I am as the primary contact. Maybe I want to set it up that way so that we all have equal permission to edit the record or even submit it. But I might create other roles in this scenario so that when I'm adding people, that they can only do and see very specific things. Maybe there's only a few fields on my application that are pertinent to a co-applicant. So maybe I'm filling out 90% of the things, and when I invite Sarah, she just has the ability to upload certain documents or maybe fill in a text box here or there. And this feature isn't limited just to co-applicants, as I was saying earlier. We can use this in a number of different scenarios. And more we see clients using this for all different kinds of use cases, whether it's adding people to be, volunteers or event managers, or all different kinds of ways you can use the invitations to get people all on board in one record. So, as I was saying, just to sum up, so it's going to allow you, if you want to use this feature in your system, help divide responsibilities a bit more efficiently. So instead of, maybe collaborating offline in like a Google, Drive folder or something like that, or a Google Doc, you can do it right in the system. And the collaboration is also something that can be done remotely, so you don't have to be, doing a lot of face-to-face interaction in order to get your application done. And the applicant themselves has the freedom to make the choices about their application independently. So they are the ones with the permission to add these other users to the system. So, without further ado, I'm going to pop into the system and I'm going to show you how it works. Share my screen here. Okay, perfect. So, the first example that I'm going to go into is in my research demo system. So, this record that I'm looking at right now is an application record. And you can see we have a number of different fields that are just the normal things that people might fill out. But in this second tab, I have my team information section. And I'm using the invitation feature here in two different ways. I have it set up to add people contacts in order to submit letters of reference for my application. And the other scenario that I have built out here is, like I was mentioning earlier, just inviting people to be co-applicants into the system. So if I go here into my add letters of reference, you can see that I've already filled it out again. But all we do very simply is add the type of referee, just the first name and last name, and the email address of the person that you want to add. So I'm going to say another, maybe a coach. And when I save my record, and I go back into my list, I can go ahead and click on send the request. So there's different ways that we can set up the invitation trigger. It could be something that is working independently of the overall application, so that even though my full application is in draft, I'm not ready to submit that yet, I can send the letters of reference independently. Or it could trigger all at once, that once my application is submitted, then those invitations to the outside users who are uploading files, they can do it at a later time. So they don't have to work, completely in tangent. And the other setup that I have here is, again, it's the same kind of fields. And here in this instance, the role that is being invited is predefined. So I can't change the capacity in which these co-applicants are being invited to the system. But if I go into this other instance that I have, this is one of our clients who uses the research feature invitations. And when we go into the team section in their system, you can see that I'm able to actually define the role of the person. And it doesn't have to be two, it can be as many different roles as there are requirements for your application. And we can add other elements to the invitation, like predefining what their particular expertise and participation might be in relation to this application. So when I go back here to my research instance, and I click the invitation feature, you can see that we're going to also have validations in place so that I can't just, submit something blank. Here, we'll type in Sarah. And when I go ahead and I do my invitation, in this case, we're going ahead and we're sending out the invitations right away. So now both of these users are invited and they're going to get an email, which I'm going to show you now, that's going to invite them to this particular application record. So once we get this invitation link in our inbox, well, not our inbox, but the person that we've invited, that's what's going to allow them to link themselves to the record. It's going to add the role assignment to them as, co-applicant or whatever the user role is for the particular application. So that's pretty much it. It's a really straightforward feature to kind of use. But as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually use this feature for. So we'd love to, get more feedback from you about, issues that you might be having or pain points that you think this could solve. One of the other things that you can do is, once you've sent these requests, is you can re-trigger the submission. So a reminder to somebody if they haven't actually, joined the application or submitted the thing that they need to submit, you can re-trigger that so that they get a reminder. And these don't have to be visible necessarily to the applicant. In this case, the applicant is able to see what status these letters of reference are at, but it could be something that's completely blind and they don't actually get any visibility. And maybe it's more of an internal administrative process to remind those particular contacts to add their, portion of the project. So that was kind of a quick one, but please definitely, start asking some questions, and hopefully we can dive a little bit deeper, because it is a pretty straightforward feature on the surface. So,
yeah. So like Rachel said, we're going to open up the floor to some questions, so please feel free. Somebody asked about quick configuration instructions.
oh yes. So the great thing about this feature is that we recently built out the wiki article for this. So I'm going to share the screen back from Sarah, and I'm going to take it again. So this was one of the new re-released wiki articles that we had, and it's a really straightforward configuration. We are going to go to the particular UTA that we want to use this in and set up the invitation template. So whether you want to do it on the level 1 or the level 2, you can just scroll down to the new invitation template, and that's where we can define the emails and the form fields that are going to be in this particular invitation. And the wiki article is really great now because every single line that is available for you to see has a full explanation of what it is that needs to be filled out and how it's applicable. And then after you've filled out and completed the template, you have to make sure, of course, that those particular roles and contacts have permission to the UTA. So if it's somebody who is like a reviewer role, for example, you have to make sure that that user has permission to even access the UTA to begin with, but that's kind of a standard one, as well as any field permissions. So when you're setting up your UTA roles, maybe as I said earlier, we only want Sarah to have access to use like 2 or 3 of the fields on that application and not all of them. So yeah, definitely we're going to circulate the link to this whole configuration setup. But if it's something that you did want to go ahead and look further to or build into your system, you can just send me an email, or we can do a call after this, and we can kind of go over your use case, one-on-one for sure.
If the invitee is not registered on the system, can they be redirected to a registration page?
Yes. So that is another great thing about the feature, is that it has like logic built into it. So the email that I received, because I obviously have a user, an email address that is identified in the system, the email that I get is going to tell me just to log in to the system. Whereas the other email, if it doesn't recognize the email address of the contact, it's going to route them to the sign-up page, and then it's going to tie that new registration still to that record that you've invited them to, so it's not disjointed.
If someone has been invited as a co-applicant and their grant is accepted, would they later on be able to co-assist filling out grant activities such as reports?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just a case, again, of whatever permissions you want to assign to that quote-unquote co-applicant or partner or joint submission person, whatever you call it, is kind of arbitrary, because however you set up those permissions, they can do whatever it is that's necessary.
Can the applicant remove someone once they've accepted the invitation?
Yes, I believe so. It just depends on if you give that lead applicant role the ability to edit the contacts. Sometimes with the contacts field on a record, the permissions are set up so that maybe only they can add but they can't delete. So it just depends on how you set up the permissions for that name application owner.
When you send the invite, does the system send the invite to those that were not invited or to all the ones on the list, even though they were already invited?
It would be, well, you can do it so that it invites, I believe, everyone all at once, or like in the example I was showing, it's just one by one. So there's a send button beside each person's name, but we've also done it where when you submit the application as a whole, that's going to just invite people that are on that list in general.
When the person clicks the link and accepts the invitation, if they aren't a contact in your system, does a new contact record get created for them?
Yes, so it wouldn't, the contact record would get created once they've actually registered to the system. So that assignment that is being done when you hit that invite button, until they've actually signed up for the instance, it just lives as like just fields on the application. The invitation record that gets created just includes like the actual name and the email address, but the actual user contact record that would get attached to that invitation record would only be created once they've signed up.
When the invitee clicks on the link, what do they see? Are we able to see that, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. So here I am. I will close that. I will just click this again. So here's my lovely notification that I've invited to be my co-applicant. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. Now, because I invited myself and I'm a system administrator, I don't have the list view, so that I don't have the portal list view to actually look at all my invitations because I didn't think that far in advance. But if I had just invited one of the test users that we have in the system that has the list view of all of their applications that they've been assigned to, then it would just appear in that list view that you've configured for them. So, but I am a part of this application now. So if I go back to the actual, I refresh this here. Let's go to my team information. You can see now that I have accepted to be a part of this application. My name and my contact information is associated properly with this application. And if I were to go ahead and look at this application record from a system administrator point of view, in that left-hand menu where you see all the contacts, my name and my user record would then be attached to that application.
How can we build a table with an overview of the whole team? Is this explained on the wiki?
Yes, so the table that builds out the whole team, so if we look back here at my other example, this is just part of how the feature is configured in general. So on my application, I'm just able to create a list view that's going to render each of those invited people in the same way that it's built out for the applicant to see the individual people. That's just part of the feature.
How can we build the invitations like the send request button in your demo? Because the wiki article as the custom invitation button, which is like the second invitation button in your demo. Sorry, I'm just going to reread that. I think for that question, if that's all right, if we can maybe bring that conversation offline, and then we can hopefully answer that a bit easier that way, if that's all right. Our next question, to whom will the workflow email notifications go to? Both applicants if we have invited, or co-applicants or only one person?
So if you were inviting multiple people to your record, then each of those people that you invited would get an email. You could set up additional workflow triggers if you wanted, like the lead applicant to also get an email, but if they're the one who's inviting the people, you could do a workflow trigger that once a person has accepted, that they get notified of the acceptance. The base feature itself can be pretty simplistic in how it operates, but depending on the additional requirements of your process, like maybe there's a program manager that needs to get notified or something like that, you could build in additional tasks to those kind of elements if you wanted. But if you have a specific use case, then for sure just send me an email after this and we can go over that.
Can you show the part where there was an expertise box to fill in and is only on the system admin side, or the user fills this in?
So this is on the user side. So this is an applicant. And when we open the invitation team member table, we've just added in an additional row for a column, to add additional fields about the invited person. It could be something that you do or don't have, or you could have even more columns than this if you wanted.
Can the permissions be set to particular application status? Like for example, can an internal role only have access at approved status?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do the invitees need to be associated with the main organization, or can they be affiliated with any organization in order to make edits?
That would also be down to your UTA permission settings, I believe. I think you can define which like grouping those new contacts get added into. But if you have certain UTA, like submission manager settings that only allow users from certain organizations to view edit access that conflict with where just brand new like contacts get dumped into, they might conflict with each other. But again, that might be another one that would be good to look at offline in more detail, because maybe you have it set up really specifically to, lock things down that only contacts from a certain organization can access your records. Then we could kind of look and see offline how that works with your use of the invitation feature.
All right, so it doesn't look like there's any more questions. Thank you guys so much for that. It's always great to hear from you.
Is there some more sneaky questions that are coming in?
Nope.
No more questions.
No more questions. Awesome. So, on that note, like we said, if you do have any further questions, please feel free to reach us at businesssolutions@smartsimple.com. We can go further into your use cases. And if not, there will be a recording of this webinar sent out to you all shortly. So look out in your inboxes for that. And we both hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks you guys so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.